What's up, everyone? Carl here from Roll 'em If You Got 'em, and I've started to wonder if we are slap chopping our models incorrectly. As always, I am joined with Dakota.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So, this is the first time Dakota's seeing basically any of this content. I don't even think I sent him many pictures along the way, but the idea of the video is I'm going to do two giants from a song of Ice and Fire. First one is going to be your traditional slap chop. The other one is going to be a white. It's like an off-white, pretty white kind of um, primer, and then I'm just going to hit it with a black wash. So here we have first giant. He's getting the stereotypical slap chop method here, primed black. He's going to get a heavy gray and then a white dry brushing after this.
Yeah, I think this concept is very interesting. I mean, it's basically seeing can you take some shortcuts on slap chopping. As I'm watching this is pretty straightforward. Black model, gray dry brush over it, and obviously it's going pretty well. I mean, I think one of the things with slap chop is you're doing a whole army. You're essentially dry brushing on two layers onto every model before you even paint it.
Mm-hmm.
And that even in itself is time consuming.
Okay, so we got the gray done. Uh, Now we're getting ready for the other one. Now I'm doing a very what I thought was a very thin wash. After I done it, I kind of wished I would have went even thinner. But we just got some cheap black apple barrel here. Put a bunch of water in, mix it up, and I'm pretty sure I add water again. I mean, I want this super thin. I just want it to run into all the nooks and crannies. Basically, doing a backward slap chop, reverse slap chop. Um, there for a minute, I was calling it the chop slap just because it's backwards slop. Oh my gosh, slap chop. But you can see how that becomes a tongue twister pretty quickly. Um, and then one time I misspoke and called it the slap chap, and I was it kind of became my favorite. So anyone watching this, if you have a preference, let us know in the comments. Okay, so right here, I started to freak out. I put this on and I was like, this was a dumb idea. What am I doing? I'm wasting a model. I'm wasting paint. I'm wasting time. Like, this was ridiculous. But I was kind of married to the idea of like, well, let's just do the video and see what happens.
Yeah,
How
I
does this
definitely
how does this make you feel right now seeing
seen.
this?
I mean, when you first hit that first few strokes, you're like, "Oh, that's a lot." But now, as you can kind of see it, running into those recesses, it's definitely giving that slap chop feel where you can start seeing all those details kind of start to pop out of it. Um, and you're kind of getting that same effect. It's a little lighter, I would say. I say you're already almost to that final slap chop type of coat after you've already grayed it and then hit a white over it. Maybe missing a little bit of like that mid tone, like it's not pulling it all in. Like the recesses are very thick, but I mean, I think it looks good at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Here's another one too. Let us know in the comments kind of what you guys prefer. So when I did that first giant, eventually I just brushed him for a minute and then just cut away to a finished gray. Now I kind of kicked everything into like 350%, and I dropped my model there. But they're giants; they bounce. Um, I just sped it up to like 350%, and I end up doing this for the rest of the video. I kind of liked this more. Um, but yeah, so in washing this guy with just the black took almost the exact same amount of time as just the gray on the giant. So if you're really bit for time here, I understand these are big models, but it kind of half the time. And then I'm just taking that black water and just trying to punch it in everywhere. And right here, like I have a little hope right here. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? That didn't turn out the
I feel like at
worst.
that point, it's very settled in those recesses. Pretty nice.
Right. And then here we are just going back and doing that white on the giant. I always go super heavy on the skin when I'm slap chopping. If it's anything lighter than like brown skin, it's getting completely white. And then a lot of times I will dry brush like a little bit of pale flesh or something over it, like a traditional paint. But for the sake of the video, I just wanted to see how all these colors looked on each model with just the Slapchop, nothing else. And we're putting the white on, going relatively heavy with it for sure. And the skin tone, I start with the skin tone in this next part because that to me was the biggest question, because I think skin tones are where the most is left desired in slap
Mhm.
chopping.
Mhm.
It's you almost always have to go back and fix it. And like I said, I've learned to even dry brush that with a actual regular traditional skin tone first. Um, we missed like the first 5 seconds of video due to technical difficulties, but here we are throwing some Army Painter Speed Paint Crusader skin on this flesh. And this is our traditional slap chop method, which you can always tell by the bases because one was primed black, the other was primed white. If you get lost and can't tell which is which here eventually. And I'm being pretty liberal with the amount of paint on my brush right now. I'm just really throwing it on there. These were kind of speed paint sort of gigs. I'm pretty sure actual time at the table, I painted both of these guys in 45 minutes.
It's a pretty good time for both of them. I mean, even in both styles, I mean that's great time. Obviously, these are bigger miniatures. They're on like 50 millimeter bases almost, something
Probably, yeah.
something of that nature. So they do have some girth to them.
But yeah, you can already see the how beautiful the speed paints are. I mean, they're already starting to do speed paint things, and they're looking pretty good on this skin tone here. And normally, if I was doing like 2 giants for a free folk army, I wouldn't paint. Okay, they're both getting green pants. They're both getting black hair on their shoulders. They're both like normally I would switch them up, but these guys I wanted to go apples for apples on as
Hmm.
much as I could. So that's what we did here. Once again, Crusader skin, and we start putting it in here. So one thing you'll notice, at least how I felt when looking at this guy, especially once he's done. So when people paint like Marvel Crisis Protocols miniatures a lot, they give them a very like they'll do hard black lines and things like that to give them that comic book
Hmm.
kind of look, like a classical comic book. Uh, this guy, I felt like I kept getting that, and I almost thought like if you did this on purpose and did it a few times, figured out what you're doing, you'll see in the end. I think he like all of his colors have like a comic book kind of spot because of how black the recesses were, but the top parts there wasn't a lot of gray. It's black and white. Um, that's one thing. I used a satin white cream, whatever this was, bone kind of color, and then
Hmm.
I also used a gloss paint because I was thinking that having the slippery air quotes here um would really bring out like just that black falling into the white.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I grabbed some Army Painter Speed Paint hardened leather, and we're just gonna do this dude up. He's gonna have that just that nice slap chop look to him. Like it's like a flat, just this cloak actually comes out really good looking, I think, and it just goes to show you how awesome slap chop can be with just really little work.
Yeah, that cloak is, I mean, I think for like a leather cloak, obviously it's wet at this point watching it. It actually looks really great.
Yeah. This is just me deciding like I really don't know where I wanted to punch color in these guys. Usually, once again, my free folk are brown, light brown, dark brown, and then I'll start to mix those three, and that pretty much
Mhm.
gets all of them. But I wanted to try some colors out. That's why we do end up throwing in like a white and then or well we do white on the hair, but green and gray. We throw a little color in these guys. So at this point, I still remember thinking, I'm like, I think this skin tone's a fluke. I was like, I don't think any more of this is going to look good. I think it really only looked good on the skin. And I still have my doubts. And I get to about right there, and I was like, oh, no, this looks like speed paint.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going in. I mean, obviously, it's still pulling out all those details. Um, I mean, that whole it's essentially adding that, pre-shading effect
Mm-hmm.
um, to it, and then you add that speed paint, contrast paint over top of it. It'll just make it, you know, crank it to 10 almost.
Um, yeah, and with the gloss and the satin, it was so flowy over the
Hmm.
surface. It had a very different texture to it painting it.
Hmm.
The if you look at how I'm holding the model right now by the part that I just painted, and then I continue to hold it that way the rest of the video. Uh, so we have yeah, absolution green going in here on the pants. I finished up painting these guys, and they were just kind of sitting here, and I don't know if I show it in the video or not, but I go back and throw like another layer on the bald dude's head, and it came out looking like almost too dark. So my 6-year-old come down here and just looks at my miniatures table, and he goes, "What's wrong with that guy's head?" I'm like, "Oh, like go away! I didn't ask you. It doesn't look very good." It's like, thanks, thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
I was like, he has frostbite on his head. Okay, that's just what happened to him. So, hey, look, another mini drop. I didn't even notice that one. All right, Absolution Green going on this old boy's pants. Big old brown smudge there. And we're just going to cover that right up, I think. Make it look like I know what I'm doing.
That is one great thing about these style of paints is if you smudge them a little bit, you can just kind of go over them, and it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a little darker
Yeah.
there. You
It
don't
looks
really ever
like
notice.
it looks like it, yeah, it's just a little dark in that spot. They're very forgiving when you're not a great painter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy little mistakes, man. Hmm. So, yeah, here I am holding the model, shoulder and head. Why I didn't use holders or anything, I think I just felt like the models were so big that I was like, oh, there's just plenty to grab onto. The I'm starting to look at the brown. I mean, the brown looks good here by
Hmm.
what I'm like. If you look at it compared to the other guy right now, you can see how much flatter the
Hmm.
color is on the other one. Which, if you're painting giants, that's probably a better way to go. But I feel like this technique, there's something here. I don't know how long it'll be until I try it again. I'll find an excuse to sometime, but it's at this point it's coming out pretty well.
Yeah, so far, I mean, it's looking pretty much like, regular Slapchop.
And then here we go, Gravelord Gray. I'm gonna hit the arm and shoulder fur, the Chap Slap Mini, the reverse slap chop. That gray just looked brown or black. I mean,
Hmm.
it is a very dark gray, but it slides off of the high points so easily here, and then into the recesses where it's just black. I just put light black on black with that guy kind of. So
Hmm.
the fur, I think Slap Chop wins that one because once the other one, even once it dries, it looks not good
Hmm.
more than white. Punch 'em white in, beard and hair. This is one that doesn't cover all that well. You'll see like that bottom part of his beard there had some skin tone and stuff on it, but I was truly putting speed paints to their name with these guys, so I wasn't going back and fixing anything. I didn't desperately need it. And then like normally when I use Holy White, I'll dry brush white over it, or at least go through and pick out highlights and stuff. I feel
Yeah.
like it kind of needs it, but
Yeah, usually using the white on those contrasts. It's more of like a very light gray
yeah.
until you kind of pick it out. So,
All right. Now we grab Speed Paint's Pallid Bone here, and I go back to that rock that I was painting earlier.
is it a rock or is it bones?
I'm pretty sure it's a bone. I think it's supposed to be like a mammoth spine kind of thing.
Gotcha.
I don't know. It's probably a rock. Who knows? My guy's carrying a bone. Okay. I feel like a bone would be lighter, a little bit better use of a tool here. Not a lot of bone color to pick on this guy, but there are some mammoth tusk, walrus tusk, who knows. So get a few of those in there. And they look good. They look probably not entirely less bony than the other guys. Oh, and then I take that same bone color and I hit the foot wraps and the ropes, and because it does make for a nice cloth color also.
Hmm.
So they're going to get their legs done.
So, one question for you as we're kind of going through this and you're picking out some more bone pieces. Do you think, obviously the Slapchop has like a kind of a flatter finish on it, and you got more of that glossy satinous type of finish on the other guy. Do you think if you were to switch to maybe more of a flatter primer, and not used the um, satin glossy kind of wash that you used, that you'd have flattened it out a lot more, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that the black wouldn't have went into the recesses quite as well. I think it would have
Hmm.
clung to those higher parts just a bit.
Hmm.
So I would have got maybe a little more shading in that some of those grays that I really just didn't get.
Hmm. Right.
I don't think it's shown here in the video, but for bronze in those types of colors, bronze and gold and stuff, with speed paints, a lot of times I just hit them with this dark wood or even hardened leather, and then just go back later and hit it with a little dry brush of whatever that metallic color is.
Yeah.
I have not acquired Army Painters recently released their metallic speed paints.
Yeah, that's a simple thing you can do. Is I've done that as well. Is leather color dry brush over with your metallic desired
Hmm.
metallic color.
And then this is the sand golem. That the image is much more yellow than even the bottle that I'm physically looking at. So it has a much more leathery sort of look.
Hmm.
This here, this runic gray, this I think this is the biggest discrepancy between the two methods. You'll see the I wanted to give him some gray cloth, and I mean I'm punching color in on this guy, and it's just off white. Like it, I
Hmm.
barely would consider it light gray.
Yep.
Uh, but I think that's. Oh, this is me trying to fix his head. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't. It came out. It comes out really dark. You'll see in the final model here in a minute.
He's
Um,
just a bit sunburnt.
yeah, that's probably what it is.
Right. So some wrap up thoughts here. Obviously, we can see them side by side next to each other. Um, how do you think it went? Like, do you think the how much time do you think you really saved between the two processes?
About 2.5 minutes.
About 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, because I think it took maybe not even. I wrote it down somewhere, and I think I lost it. But I think I had like 4 minutes in total slap
Mhm,
chopping, and then I had about 2 minutes difference in chap slapping.
mhm. Do you think that time saved is worth it? I mean, I think looking side by side, they look, I mean, pretty consistent. Obviously, we know we're a little bit flatter on the slap chop one than the other one. Um, but I mean, I don't think the results vary too much. What do you think?
No, so if you look at like the belly of the
Mhm,
chap slap there on the right, you can see like those like comic booky lines that
mhm,
are way too dark and thick for what should really be there, you know.
mhm. Yeah.
But if you practiced it a few more times, I mean, let's think about how many minis I've slap chopped. Uh, I don't think I'm joking when I say 200
Mhm,
with all the die inspired guys, especially.
mhm,
This is the first time that I um, backwards slap chopped. So, I didn't know the first time I did a real slap chop, like, hey, go super white on the face and,
mhm.
some of the little things that I've kind of picked up for myself.
Right. Yeah, I think too. Obviously, we kind of talked about the issue with it being very satin, and obviously that running deep into those recesses, like you can tell there on the stomach.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, you take those spots out. Uh, there really isn't too much else, and I'm like looking at just through those picture wise, and I'm like, yeah, they're a little bit over the top, a little bit too deep. I mean,
Yeah.
between that and the other one, I mean, I think it. I mean, I still think it looks good.
I like the finished look of the slap chop more,
Yeah.
but it's way better than I thought it was going to be the first time I put the black paint on it.
Yeah. Do you
All right.
think the amount of time you save, do you think if you duplicated that over an army, it would be worth the time save?
If you're dealing with likely smaller models, because these dudes are pretty big, about
Mhm,
I don't know, 2 inches tall, 2.5 inches tall. Um, the time that you would save, I think, would be absolutely minuscule
mhm.
because you can dry brush up 1 inch model in, I mean, 20 seconds
Right, right,
for
right.
the slap chop.
Mhm,
I don't know. It would take a rare circumstance that I can't put a name to right now, even for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this full time on someone.
right.
But I think
Okay.
it's an interesting little trick to have.
Yeah, I definitely think it is as well.
If speed paints weren't around and we were doing things like this with traditional paints, then this could be something.
Mhm,
Um, like I said, this is how my original free folk, they were all primed white, and then I just used super thin paints to paint them,
yeah.
and it kind of had a speed paint almost look to it, but
Right.
without it being speed paint. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the video. Don't forget to do the YouTube things for us. Like, subscribe, drop a comment on the video. There are links below to our Discord channel. You come in, chat with us, hang out. If there's anything special you'd like to see, it's a great place to put it. And follow us on Instagram. Until next time, bye.